So the first application I'll be talking about is plastic. Plastic is prevalent in many aspects of lives, and it's pretty essential to utilize and understand the different types of plastic polymers. So this all comes down to polymer classification. So I'm pretty sure if you have ever used a plastic container or a plastic bucket, anything made of plastic, there is a number somewhere on the item. And this number is a recycling grade. And a recycling grade represents a different type of polymer with different physical properties. And so different recycling grades, they reflect different chemical and physical properties, and thus affects how the polymer can be used and how it can be recycled. So here's a more specific example. See, recycling code 1 corresponds to this type of polymer and structure, and so on for the remainder of the recycling grades. As you can see, different monomers also they reflect different applications. So, for example, you can't use a plastic that has like this type of monomer for like heavy duty microwavable container. Like, it just doesn't really work, and the classification of these polymers allow us to optimize the use of plastic. Next, polymer classification can also be applied to rubbers. So this classification allows us to comprehend the physical and chemical properties of rubbers that we use in our lives. So I chose 4 types of rubbers over here: natural rubbers, SBRs, silicone, and nitrile right over here. I don't know why this is still here. Anyways, natural and synthetic rubbers, they have varying physical qualities. First off, natural rubbers. So these are composed of latex sap, usually from a rubber tree, and this material that has a high tensile strength. Thus, it is applied to seals, shock mounts, and hoses. Next, we have SPRs. The long way to pronounce SPRs is styrene butadiene rubbers, and I'm not even sure if I pronounced that correctly. But anyways, SPRs are a synthetic type of rubber that offers very good abrasion resistance, outstanding impact strength, and high tensile strength. However, this material can be easily degraded by oils, steam, and sunlight. So therefore, it is applied to tire products and automotive parts that will it'll be able to withstand the high strain and stress that will be applied to it in this industry. Next is silicon. So silicon is a chemically stable polymer that is resistant to water, steam, or petroleum fluids. However, it exhibits a very poor tear resistance, abrasion, and tensile strength. So therefore, it's used for mostly static applications, such as sealants, lubricants, and circuit boards. Another thing to add on here is the way that silicon interacts with the environment. Its chemical stability makes this polymer very ideal for use in the food industry. So lastly, the last polymer right here is nitrile, and this is a polymer with very high tensile strength and also abrasion resistance. It is resistant to oils, fuels, water, and alcohol, and therefore it's basically the steel industry's most widely used polymer, just because of how durable it is and how it's so chemically resistant. As you can see here, it's used for natural gloves. So another application of polymer classification is polyethylene. And polyethylene is a synthetic polymer that is created by polymerizing ethylene. So polyethylene can be divided into two types. First is low density, and next there's high density. And as you can see in these two pictures, each type of polyethylene has a different chemical structure. So low density has a linear structure, and high density has a branched out structure. And I'm going to assume that, since there's a linear structure, low density polyethylene is going to be, it's going to take up more space, and this term is one we defined earlier. It's going to having a linear strand would increase the radius of gyration, therefore making this polymer a low density polymer. On the other hand, a branched polymer would fit more material given the amount of space it has, and therefore it is a high density polymer. So low density polymers make it very light and flexible, so these are usually used for plastic bags and styrofoam. On the other hand, this high density polyethylene is used for pipes and containers that require a more rigid structure. Sorry. All right. So finally, the usage and classification of biopolymers is sometimes overlooked. Our bodies produce 4 main biopolymers, although there are many more that are created. The main 4 are lipids, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, and amino acids. And one way that these biopolymers are classified are whether they are hydrophobic or hydrophilic. And although this may seem like a simple classification, understanding these properties is actually very crucial to understanding how these structures can diffuse in and out of membranes of a cell and interact with the surroundings of the cell. So let's go over nucleic acids first, and it's right over here. So the exterior of DNA has many nitrogen bases, and due to this chemical feature, it is hydrophobic. In other words, it is resistant to water. It's like oil and water. This is also similar with lipids. Lipids are mostly hydrophobic, and this is due to the concentration of hydrogen and carbon atoms. And as you can see here, this is fatty acids are basically a huge chain of hydrogen, carbon, and maybe some extra elements at the end. On the other hand, carbohydrates and proteins are hydrophilic due to the chemical structure. So their chemical structure over here, hydrophilic, this allows them to form hydrogen bonds with water, and therefore, because of these properties, they're going to love being with water, and they're not going to be resistant to it. In other words, since they're so hydrophilic, it is actually very easy for water to break these molecules apart. So that's something that material scientists and biologists sort of have to keep in mind when analyzing these polymers. So that was it. And thank you.